Welcome everybody to this week's Money Soapbox series. Now, as we continue on this financial detox journey, we have been tracking our expenses and placing them in different buckets. So far, we have addressed the convenience, the status and appearance buckets, hoarding and overconsumption. And last week we addressed and we tackled the addiction buckets. This week we are going to address the petty cash bucket. And so you might be wondering, well, who carries cash these days? Everybody pays with a card, but we all carry some cash to an extent. And here's the thing, because we're not tracking what we're spending with that cash, we're missing a, a big leak. So, what is the petty cash bucket? It's the money that we spend casually, daily, without giving it much thought. It's those tiny leaks that's draining your wallet faster than you realize. It's those little expenses or those little purchases that don't feel big at the time until you add it all up. So, why do we need to pay attention to this bucket? Because it's the small leaks that sink the big ships. So, it's the $3 here, the $2 there, $5 over there, $7 at the drive through. And then at the end of the week, it all adds up to anywhere from 50 to $100 gone. And then we wonder where our money went. So, what falls under this bucket? Parking meters. That $1.50 here, $2 there. If you think about it, if you paid for parking, and this is at a meter, let's say, for example, $2 a day, that could quietly drain you to a tune over $40 a month. But we don't see it as $40 a month because we're just focused on the $2 or the $1.50 at the time. Another expense that would fall under this would be toll roads. Although toll roads, I think a lot of people they're paying it with their card, but nonetheless, it's an expense that we don't really think much about it. Okay? And of course, this is depending on where you live. Now, when I first relocated to Texas, I had no idea that they had a toll road. And to take the toll road, it was very expensive. And so, of course, I did not want to take the toll road. So I started to talk to different people about convenient or different routes that I could take to get around the toll road. And so they began to share with me how much they were spending on a monthly basis. They were spending anywhere from $300 and up. And to them, it was not a big deal. It was just one of those things that they felt that they needed to pay for. Well, of course, me, I said, no way am I paying $300, $400, or even $200 to use the toll road. So I had to figure out an alternative, and which I did. I never, ever, the time that I spent there, I never used the toll road, ever. Another example is those coffee runs, those $6 coffee runs. I don't know how much coffee is these days. I don't drink coffee, but whether it's coffee, tea, those lattes. I know a lot of people, they buy those lattes. Let's say, for example, you pay $6 for a latte and you do that 4 times a week. That adds up very quickly to $100 a month. And again, we don't realize it because we're focused on the $6. That one time $6 that turns out to be 4 or 5 times a week. Another expense that would fall under this would be someone borrowing from you. Hey, you got $5 you can spare, you've got $10 you can spare. Because we're not tracking it, we have no idea how much money we are lending out to people or giving out to people. Those last minute convenience items, like for example, you're at the laundromat, you got to do laundry, and you forgot to bring your soap or buy your soap. And so you end up buying the soap in their vending machine. And so $1.50 this week, $2 next week, it adds up. Which brings me to the next one, which is those vending machine purchases. You're out and about, whether you're at work, whether you're at the doctor's office, um, and you gotta buy a drink or a snack. You end up making those purchases, which I think the cheapest purchase you can make nowadays, from what I've seen, is like $2 and 2.50, where you can get the same item by planning ahead of time for $1 at the store. Okay. Those are just some examples. I'm sure as you're tracking, there's other examples. So, what are some of the ways that we can tackle or address this bucket? Well, the first one is you want to track, which we have all been doing since the start of this series. It's through the tracking that you begin to spot these little expenses. And so as you begin to spot these expenses, the the one thing that you can do is you want to prepare ahead of time. And I talked about this in addressing some of the other buckets. For example, I was a snacker and I was always spending money at the gas station, vending machines, and it was adding up once I started to track it. So I started to buy things in advance and then stash them away in my car, in my workstation, etc. If you live in an area where it requires you to take a toll, like I was, then it's going to require you to plan your routes in advance on how to get around the toll. And of course, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get to your destination. And so it's going to require that you leave a little bit earlier. And so I did all those things. And to me, it was well worth it versus spending the money to use the toll roads. If you have to pay for parking, can you prepay, get a discount with prepaying for your parking in advance? If you are a regular at those coffee and latte runs, can you make your coffee and bring it with you? And instead of purchasing or making those runs 4 to 5 times a week, maybe cut it down to once a week or twice a week as a treat versus a habit. So, to address a lot of these expenses in this bucket, the main thing is to pre plan in advance, plan ahead, plan the day before. Okay. Which may seem a little bit like a hassle, but it is well worth it once you start to see how much you're actually spending. Now, remember financial detox before we get to the budget. It's not about never spending, it's just about spending wisely, making wise choices with our money. And when you control the petty cash leaks, you start reclaiming your financial power dollar by dollar. So, what's one petty cash habit you know that you need to get control over and kick it to the curb? Go ahead and share that down below in the comment section. And that is it for this week's video. Stay tuned for more Money Soapbox sessions as we clean house one bucket at a time. And thank you all for tuning in to the Money Soapbox.